This videotape was edited from a 4-day advanced submodalities training in Boulder, Colorado, late September of 1987. All the participants in this training have completed an NLP practitioner training as well as a 12-day advanced submodalities training. Richard presupposes this background as he goes on to present new material he's developed recently. Since Richard always demonstrates what he's teaching while he's teaching it, as well as incorporates other NLP methods, the videotape offers information at many levels simultaneously. Those without extensive NLP training can enjoy learning the particular method being taught, while someone with more complete background can learn at multiple and deeper levels, particularly with repeated viewing.
One of the things that I've noticed is that the people's internal organization really doesn't make much use of the submodalities and the representational systems. The people with their little tiny pictures and their squeaky little internal dialogue voices, even the people that tell me, that there's too much going on inside their head, when I find out what's going on, there's nothing going on in there. And what is going on, they've got 5 of the same little tiny things going on at once, and that's because they never really develop any of this stuff out to the nth degree. Say, when I woke up this morning, when I went to bed last night, I guess I had a movie on or something, and I fell asleep, and the channel went off the air, and it went through the night. And then the first thing that happened was I got this, Richard Roberts full choir. It was the first thing. Suddenly it went bleep on, and then the first thing I heard was this giant choir, right? And for me, I didn't realize the TV had come on. I thought I woke up, because that's more what my internal experience is like. That when somebody was mentioning to me that when they're about to go out to do something, like they're about to go out on a date, they get anxious, and the little voices that talk to them back and forth and all this kind of stuff. And the thing to me, it's like, when I prepare to do something, I mean, it's like a Wagnerian opera inside of my head. And I found that most people, especially with internal auditory, it's weak, 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 weak. So one of the things that I thought we'd do, just so that we could end on a really fun note, is to see if we can take some of the things that you do normally and begin to expand them. For example, when you're thinking about going to teach or going to work, Steve was telling me that he has, which one is it? Yeah, but how does it go? It's just give us... Right, that when he goes to do anything that's a challenge, that this is going on in his head, but it's not going on in his head with just a little voice humming it. It's going on, with a 30-piece orchestra, and lightning bolts clashing, da 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 da, and to me this is familiar. I understand this, right? Then in order to have pizzazz yourself, your internal world's got to have some. That, if your internal voices mumble, it's all you hear inside your head, little tiny pictures this big, right, maybe a little value system like this, Every once in a while I get somebody who has a panoramic picture, but it's kind of faded, and there ain't that much going on in it, I know people have panoramic pictures and they're still, and that's a belief, right, and they wonder why they never kind of get going and get juicy in life or become expressive. Part of being expressive is that there's a drama going on the inside. With me, I've got the sweet inspirations singing, when it's time to, just go, I don't just think to myself, gee whiz, I have to go pick up my date. Let's see, little tiny slide of date, Then it's, I'd never get out of the house, man. Never would, It's like it starts out, with me, it starts out with a timpani drum, right? See, when I want... Right, and then suddenly there's 20 timpani drums. Got to build up gradually, and then it starts out with the strings. See, and the thing I wanted you to do is I wanted you to be able to stop, because especially with the auditory system, if you stop, and and in your mind, you see, it's like if you start, like if you just think about going out to do something, right now, if you close your eyes for a minute, and you just start with the sound of one timpani drum. Right? And make sure it's deep enough that has that timpani rumble. The rumble, you can feel it in your stomach. It rumbles. And you turn the volume up a little bit. And then, as you look up, have the picture start to move back away from you and get bigger. And as it moves back away and gets bigger and expands, there's more and more timpani drums. They add. And the rumble of it, it's like, an earthquake till you can feel it in your body. has rich tones, and the tone is coming from all around you, not from one little place. Right? That you, whatever location you start with, start to expand the location of the sound till it fills the room. Then a couple of big thunderbolts come down, and you hear it just rumbles all the way through you. And then once that's just a little beginning. Say, then what you need is like the internal dialogue that says, it's time to leave for my date, right? What you want is one voice. What you want is a nice, strong voice that sings it like a gospel singer. It's time to go out on that date. And then you want the background singers to come in, 400 of them, right? Oh, yeah, what a date it's gonna be. Now, when you can hear that fucking shit, and when it rumbles all the way through your body, yeah, amen. Right, and that's when the horn section comes in. Right, a nice big bass, right. And when you start adding these things in and filling out this representation, you are going to get motivated, right? That way, it's instead of sitting in front of the mirror going, well, I don't know if you'll like my tie. I mean, I don't know how anybody ever gets out of the house with the stuff like this. They don't, with me, it's, the lightning bolts are going off, and, and there's fireworks going up, and that rumble that comes just before the fireworks, that, right, and then it goes, that kind of stuff. I get excited, right? I'm out there and, yeah, right? And the other guy, that's going to go out with me is up there, and he's going, Richard, do you like my tie? What time is it? Right, like that. And me, I'm at the door going, and he's at the door going, well, we have our keys. Do I have my money? He said, gee whiz, man, maybe we should be a little late, Well, where do you think you go? Where do you want to go? I want to go everywhere. Well, don't get excited, I mean, I don't know how people live this way, right? For me, walking down the street, man, there's music coming from everywhere and stuff, I don't know. I don't need to carry no big thing on my shoulder to do that, right? But at least those people are trying. Now, the thing is if your internal voices don't have enough depth and tone to them that they rumble when they talk, I mean, it's like the old thing about, was it you that told me about Stephen King here and the voice behind his head? I mean, if you wanted to get to work, if you hear this voice kind of echoing from like a subway, and suddenly it comes up behind you and goes, get to work! Yeah, I'm going. You're up and running, right? But if you have a thing that goes, well, I really have a lot of work to do. And then it's silent, and you have a picture this big of your desk, right? You try to pull it closer to get more motivated. This shit don't cut it, man, right? And then you wonder why people say, well, gee, when Richard lectures, he seems to be so much more exciting than other people. Well, they're lecturing, they've got a blackboard this big in their mind, right? And they're going, well, the step number one is you have to be able to elicit responses, like enthusiasm, right? I mean, to me, the responses are there. I have these full, gigantic things, sensorama, I have the big Dolby speakers turned down onto the ground so it rumbles when the music is there. Now, the thing is what I want you to do this time is you have your little submodality lists. Especially in the domain of sound, many of you have not learned to take the tone and to make it as rich and as deep to the point where you can feel it in your whole body. Let alone, I mean, to me, if you're going to say something to yourself inside your head, you ought to have a chorus of background singers to back it up. Oh, yeah, right? I mean, if I say now, I am walking over there to talk to that lady, voices go, oh, yeah. I mean, there ain't none of this shit that goes, there ain't no room for a voice to go, well, maybe you better not, because it's drowned out by 50 singers, right? And as I start to stand, everything goes quiet. And then there's a big, giant drum roll on the timpani. So when I get up, I feel like I've gotten up. And when I go to take the first step, each step crashes. There's a lightning bolt that goes... big one like this all the way across the front, and the whole background lights up, and the sky rumbles, and it rumbles through my body. I can feel it when I move, so I know that I'm alive, right? But if you get up, and you hear, and And the little voice off in the distance inside the back of your head goes, "It'll be all right. Don't worry." Right? And then you feel a tenseness in your stomach. You know, this kind of stuff, you know, I mean, if you're going to do it, do it. See, the thing is in terms of building some that's what life should be like, you know? Life shouldn't be like, well, seems all right to me now. Do I feel okay or not bad? I ask people, I go, what do you want? And they go, well, I don't want to feel fear, right? I go, yeah, what do you want to feel? And they go, well, I want to feel okay. And I was, you know what comes in my mind? A big branding iron with an O on it, and a big branding iron with a K. You want to feel okay? There it is. Then in order to have some, you know, to be able to really elicit responses, I mean, when you want to motivate somebody with enthusiasm to do something, let alone want and desire, can you imagine what goes on? In my mind? Well, let me tell you this. I mean, to me, you know, the thing is it's like there's a gigantic vacuum, right? And at the, you know, and the end of the vacuum is like this. Like somebody's over me with a giant vacuum cleaner like this, except that what you see up this giant is what it is that I want, right? So it's not a matter of holding back. It's a matter of holding back just enough that when I let go, I fly into it, right? And I go, and I can hear the sound of the air rushing. You know when you use a vacuum cleaner? Imagine if you were an ant holding onto the carpet. I hear that sound pulling me towards it. And it gets louder and louder, and I'm like this. Right? Because I know when I let go, it's just a matter of, right? And I mean, that's why when I look at something and go after it, as I start towards it, the things that are out there always look at me and go. I mean, when I walk across the room, boy, I want to tell you that, you know, when I go, you, come here, they stand up, they come right up off the chair and float towards me. You know, it's like, because I want the air around me to be alive like static electricity. And what makes it that way is to have the inside like static electricity. Now, I thought what might be a good idea to begin to help some of you to get to those representations would be if you began to do it deliberately. If you think about something that you need to be motivated to do, and like go in and compare the kind of motivation I'm talking about with yours right now. Do you find any differences whatsoever? See, the thing is that if life has no drama on the inside, you sure can't expect it to have much on the outside. I mean, you know, you'd be kind of people that'd be walking through, you know, a real hurricane thinking about juju gum on the inside of your head, you know. I mean, I'm always amazed that there's got to be people that really haven't got a lot of sensory experience. Hurricane in Hawaii, right? Giant hurricane going on. And in downtown, Kona, the town I lived in at the time, I mean, this thing is like taking sailboats up out of the harbor and throwing them against the breakwater, and they're splintering, and the biggest piece is this big, right? And there's some guy walking along the street where the breakwater is, and I'm driving down around to pick up a friend of mine that's stuck at a restaurant down there. I mean, you know, because his car blew away, right? And there's some asshole out there walking down the street, and he's holding onto a tree, and I roll down the window, and I said, get the fuck in the car. And he says, I'm trying to find a store. And I said, what are you trying to buy? You know, and the guy said, well, my wife sent me out for some disposable diapers. And this guy's walking along while God is playing. He smashed the island of Kauai. I mean, to the point he just took Kauai and he went and leveled the whole thing. I mean, hotels that have been there for 40 years, they couldn't find anything but where the swimming pool used to be. And this guy's out trying to buy a box of Pampers. And all he's got in his mind is a box of Pampers this big. Right? He doesn't notice that the tree he's holding on is being uprooted. And said, my, where are the Pampers? We're on vacation in Hawaii and we need to have Pampers. You know, that when your world is like that, your world is going to be limited. That if I want people to be more alive and more juicy, it's not so much that I take this, that I make them believe that they are, because then they'll believe life is really exciting, which is fine as long as I don't have to talk to them. But if I am going to have to talk to you, I want you to be alive and vibrant. Now, on that list of submodalities, if you start thinking big. If you start thinking about something you want to be motivated to, you want to be sucked towards it. You want to have every representation inside you that talks about it. You want voices. Now, the first step is I really want you to start with the auditory, because some of you are pretty good with pictures, but sound, I've found that people in this country are weak. I mean, I have musician friends that have exciting internal auditory experience. A guy that's a composer, man, and I mean, he gets it so dramatic inside his head, it knocks him over. He'll be sitting there, and suddenly he'll go, fuck, like this, you know, and I mean, that's the point where the whole symphony goes quiet, and then hits him all at the same time. Now, if you've ever been to a symphony, right? Most of you been to a symphony? Compare that with a record, right? A Walkman, right? Most of you like have a Walkman with one thing on it and no tone control. You know, so you listen to a Wagnerian opera, you know. You listen to Don Giovanni, and instead of it going, we want you to the band, you know, we'd really appreciate it if you had a chance to repent, you know. And instead of Don Giovanni going, never, he goes, well, man, I just don't think so, not right now, man. You know, there's something lost in the translation there. Now, what I want you to do is to start by taking the internal representation about something you want to be motivated to do, something you like to do, but when you do it, you ain't got nearly the juice you could. Because what we're going to do is we're going to crank things up. And instead of heading for threshold with any one system, we're going to do it by numbers. See, the thing is, you can turn the volume up till it goes through threshold. But the other thing you can do is begin to add more and more and more of the same voice and have it get louder, but more importantly, have it get fuller, so that the internal tone is rich and deep. So the point where, when you get one voice to the point where you can hear it, to the point where it vibrates in your body, then you start adding. Now, how many of you, your internal dialogue doesn't have any background singers to back them up? You want to make a point to yourself, man? I mean, you know, think about it, man. You've all watched TV, right? You watch TV, you know. I mean, you know, even the guys on Sunday TV, they know that, you know. They make a point, man, you know, and then the voices rise up at the chorus there. I mean, you got to have at least 4 or 5 black singers in the background to make any point, I figure. The sweet inspirations. I mean, even Elvis did that, you know. Now, I mean, if they're entitled to a little harmony there, you know, a little volume, nice and, you know, I mean, something to really get you motivated. Because when you listen to those kind of voices, when you hear them on TV and in the movies, they get you going, don't they? Now, if they can use it there, why shouldn't you be using it in your own life? It makes life a lot more fun to begin with. So what I want you to do is to start by taking just one thing you need to motivate yourself to be really up for. And I want you to take the internal dialogue you have, and I want you to think Wagnerian opera. I want you to think gospel singing. I want you to think symphony. I want you to think the best, badassest rock and roll you ever heard, and we're going to combine it together. And then we're going to bring Steven Spielberg in for special effects, right? Because the thing is we want to create in us the kinesthetics that make our voice vary, that make us look like we're alive, to the point where, because if your internal experience isn't intense, right, then what you elicit from other people is going to be wimpy, wussy bullshit. It's like, have you ever been really excited? Okay, yes, I'm thinking of a time where I was really excited. Right? You know, we need the kind of stuff that when you look at somebody, before you even say anything, they can feel it coming off of you. You know, your hair is standing on end. You're rumbling from the inside out to the point where when they look at you, they go. There's a difference between pacing and just being so powerful. They get sucked into it. See, you can either pace or you can make it so they pace you, just to keep up. And the thing is if your voice tone has the depth and the vibrance, but it's not going to have it. If when you say something, even when I say something on the out loud, I hear an echo chorus from behind go, yeah! I mean, when I look at an audience, by the time I walk up in front of an audience, I mean, they give me an audience of, you know, 50, 60 people. When I walk up, by the time I turn to look at them, I'm in a state, man, you know, where there's this chorus of voice that looks out and says in the most demonic voice you can imagine, they're ours. And I say, you're mine. And I hear a background chorus that goes, they're yours, right? And then the lightning bolts come and they crackle around the room. And I see this electricity covering all of them, and it pulls them together. And it's crackling, and just before it crackles, I hear that rumble that goes with thunder, kind that you can feel in your chest. And it's all over the place. So before I say anything, there's some vibrance in my own experience. Right? I don't come out and go, Well, today I'm going to tell you about NLP. And I pull out some picture this big, you know, listen to some fucking little internal dialogue, look at some fucking timeline this big and go, NLP is a major part of my life, you know. Yeah, you know, it's called. You think of all the experiences that I've had in NLP. Now, one of the major things I want you to see, it wouldn't do it. But yet many of you don't live much differently than that, you know. It's like, you know, I mean, to me, even when I turn and I look, it's like, you know, when I hear thunder, the pictures rumble. My insides rumble. The excitement. You know, have you ever been where a storm, man, I love them, man. They have those things like last time I went to Salt Lake City, man, as I landed, I came in at 3 in the morning, right? Came in and there was a lightning storm and it was going on all around the valley, but not in the city. So that it would go out there and you'd hear the rumble. And the mountains, it's in like one of those bowls, kind of like Denver is here. The mountains would light up in the background. I mean, it was like the whole thing was alive. Everything, there was electricity in the air. You know, you could feel, you roll down the window and stick your finger out and it go tss, right? That's the kind of state that can accomplish something. Now, what I want you to do when you sit down and think of this thing you want to be motivated, what you're going to do with your partner, is you're going to start asking them, what's there? And what's there ain't going to be shit compared to what you can make it. Any auditory that's there, if there's no auditory there, we're going to build it. But again, you're after that whole effect, man. Take the things you know about it, timpani drums. Make sure when they hear it, it's not tiki 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 tiki. You know, you want to move it back a little bit. Don't have everything right here. Move it out so that they're parts, so that their physical circle can increase beyond the range of their nose. So that when they start with the sound, that they hear sound coming from all around them. And make it deep enough that their body vibrates. And then you start building upon what the sound is. What I want to do is to give you an example, and have you give each other an example of what it takes to make life full of static electricity. This is called preparing. So if you're trying to get yourself up to do something, right? When you have to try and get yourself up to do things like go out on a date, man, you aren't thinking about it as a pure carnivore. You know, it's like when you start building these things where you just going to the point where you can't, there's no way you could sit still. There's no way you could possibly forget what time it is and be late. I mean, there's just no way, because we build excitement. And we be building excitement today, right now. Now, especially with the tone, the amount of things. If you're going to make a point to yourself, reiterate it with singers. You want some music, you want some rhythm. And it can change from one thing to the other, but you want to build an internal representation that's got the power of a thunderstorm. Man, you want those lightning crunches, you want those thunderbolts to go off, you want to feel the rumble. You want to know that when you walk, the earth moves. Right? Because if it doesn't move for you, how is it going to move for somebody else when you're there? If you don't build up those kind of representations in your mind that build that kind of excitement for things, it's like, well, okay, we're going to have sex now. Johnny Carson is over. You know, I mean, it's a commercial. I can't even think that short, man. My brain don't even think that small. But I guess you're right. Well, there's nothing good on TV. Let's have sex. You know. I mean, you know, it's the thing is that, I mean, even going to talk to somebody, to meet somebody, I mean, the kinds of things that you can build up inside of yourself can build the kind of excitement that make going to the movies look like nothing. I mean, you know, if you imagine, see, Fellini made a movie years ago. I don't know how many of you saw it. It was called Clowns. Any of you see that? And in Clowns, they have all the clowns jumping around, and the music is going, and it's exciting, and everybody in the theater is just totally into it, and he cuts the music all at once. And all you hear is there's a rope with clowns on it, swinging back and forth, and where it was happy and gay before, all you hear is and these clowns are running around doing the same thing, but it's not fun anymore. It's scary. It's empty. You know, the thing is most of you are living that way. And you wonder why you're scared all the time and nervous and why you have all this emotional shit going on. Well, it's because you ain't got nothing else going on. See, if you build the kind of representations I'm talking about, when you think back to how you used to think, you're going to go. You know, it's going to be like seeing somebody's Super 8 movies or their vacation somewhere instead of going and seeing Steven Spielberg's new Raiders of the Lost Ark in a panoramic theater. You know, it's like, you know, it'd be like, you know, watching, The Exorcist on one of these wristwatch televisions with a VCR in your pocket. You know, in order to get into it, you have to do this, right? You know, it's like, to me, the bigger the screen, the better. And, you know, the fully panoramic, I mean, some people's panoramic doesn't go over the top. You want the sound coming from everywhere, the rumbles, the feelings, to the point where you can feel it, to the point where it lights your fire. Now, I want you to go through the auditory stuff and build a huge auditory representation for this. Think dramatic. Cecil B. DeMille, The Exodus, that kind of thing. I mean, think horn sections, string sections, you know, big basses, you know, groups of singers, you know. And the thing is then instead of having a little voice that goes, well, I know we can do this. I know we'll be able to do this. I know we're going to do it. It's not going to be hard. Trust me this time. We'll be able to do this. Right? And a big picture where you can see exactly what it is. You know, something that really draws it to you, where you try to move it closer, and there ain't enough room to get it very big. Right? You know, instead of one of those kind of things, we want something that is megalomaniac. We want you to go through. Now, go through the auditory stuff. Now, remember that in the auditory stuff is that on the list, it may not be as extensive as what I'm talking about. There's the number of sound sources, the fullness of sound, and even adding, you know, things like a little content, like, you know, the fact that there's background singers, trumpets, horns, anything you can think of. You know, you want that jet engine feeling. You know, when the jet engine starts, right? You know, so that you're going off, you know, put yourself in an X-wing fighter. You know, man, make life more like Star Wars, you know, so that you just get that rumble. And, you know, the rumble with the music and all that stuff, and the background singers telling you to get in there and go do it, you know. It's going to be so you feel like you're just getting sucked into the event. Make the pictures huge, grandiose, bigger than any screen they've ever had. 360 degrees, all the way around. Big movies, giant scenes, lightning, thunder. You know, every representation you can think of to make whatever it is something that is so irresistible. Plus, when they go into it, they're so alive because when you look at them, and then when they're in that state, have them talk to you. And if they don't blow you out of your chair, you ain't in nothing. When they look at you and say, all right, I'm ready to do it, you should be going, okay. I think we've got the exercise right. That's what I'm after. Right now, and remember, all of these things, especially the auditory things, should make the feelings. That you got to have the fullness of sound. It's not I don't want no three wimpy, you know, white girls in the corner here, right? We want the big mamas, right? You know, we want the ones that when they sing break glasses. Yeah, they got them big voices. How many of you have seen what is it, the Little Shop of Horrors? They got this skinny little white girl in there, and when she opens her mouth, man, she's got a pair of lungs on her that would just about break glasses in the first 3 rows of the movies. We want voices like that. We want big, giant voices, right, that rumble when they talk. Things that take a hold of you and pick you up and throw you into life. Now, you got the exercise? Is anybody ready to do it? Yeah. Yeah. Then go do it. Amen. Okay. Now, the other thing is that I've noticed where this becomes really, because if you've really got stuff going on inside you, the other thing that happens, as I mentioned to a few of you, is when you look out at your puny little client, as they describe to you their little pictures, and they have a little voice that comes from over here, and you ask them, you know, especially the ones that go, I don't see anything inside. I can't see my pictures. You go, I believe you. You know, because they're usually like this. And you go, and what are you aware of just before, you know, you become nervous? And they go, I don't know. And they go, are you nervous now? And you go, yeah. See, it doesn't take much to get them nervous. You know? They always say, well, I hear my heart beating. Right. I believe you. Thump, 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 thump. Oh, I must be scared. Oh, I must be scared. As you look out at your puny little client, there's a perceptual change that is very useful. See, to me, I even do this with audiences. How many of you in here, like, have to talk to groups of people? You know, see, I'd have figured it was a bunch of you. That's why I wanted to add this. The thing is that when I look out at an audience, the one thing I do is, since I have all this going on, I literally send out my reality around them. I mean, I literally see the crackles going over, and I bring them down and I shrink them down like this. And the way I do that is that I raise up inside of this dramatic reality that you have. The only thing left is to change your size, so that you perceptually, as you look out at the reality you're really going to deal with, while you have all this stuff going on and all this drama, you put in the center of it what's going on outside you, and you raise up like a four-toed dragon, and you look down upon it, spread your wings, right? Breathe fire over it with your first word, and you go, hello. Watch the flames go all around them. See, the thing is it really changes the point of view of how you deal with the kinds of things that people tell you when they come in and they go, well, I really have trouble, I procrastinate at work. You look down at them and go, you do you? That, you know, and they can feel it. They go, well, maybe it's not so important. So, there's the one thing about, you know, because, I mean, I hadn't seen clients in a long time. I mean, I worked with huge groups of people and small groups like this. But, I mean, the idea of just sitting in a room alone with one client, you know, I hadn't done that in a long, long time. So they get, you know, even when I saw the clients that are on the films, you know, there was at least 3 or 4 people in the room, you know, and some cameras or something. But, I mean, when I met these people, I saw a bunch of clients from back east. They'd fly out, and I'd take them over to the embassy suites. And I'd sit there, and this poor, pathetic client would be in front of me. And they're holding their piece of paper with what they wanted on it, you know. And I have all this stuff going on, and all they had was little voices going blah, 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 like that. In order for them to pay attention to those voices, I have to make it possible for them to do it. And one of the things is I have no intention of doing it that way. That I know if you can build bigger and more dramatic representations in people than the ones they have will seem puny to them too. That one of the things that, you know, that when I've talked about in other groups about amplifiers, I don't know if any of you had the idea what I had in mind here. That, you know, see, the thing is, it's like Steve was just telling me about working with somebody, and they had a phobia of spiders. Right, and they cured the phobia, but then he went back and he did things where he had the spider keep growing and growing and growing until they had a 500-foot spider. And it just seemed unreal to them. But then when they went back and looked at a spider, it sure didn't seem like much. And there is something to be said for when you work with people, not only having the dramatic representations, but I will tell you, the thing is that if you can raise up in your mind so that what's going on, and the way, one of the things I do is as they start to tell me things, I switch back and forth. So that, in me, I actually take the old referential shift, right, and switch between my dramatic representations and the thing where they have this little picture over here, you know, and it kind of moves this way, and it gets a little brighter, a little dimmer, right? Switch back and forth between that and the kind of thing you just did with yourself. And the one thing I can understand is that if this person is that overwhelmed with this, the one thing is it brings up in me is I hear this echoing laughter. So you think your God is tough, you know, that allows me to know that it's not even something about having confidence about what you're going to do. It's that it's so puny you can go like this. Now, the sense of what it puts inside you, your willingness to literally take it and say, all right, take your little picture and move it out to a dot. Does it bother you now? Now pull it up on the other side. Whoa, doesn't that change it? Right? And they go, yeah, wow. The thing is, and go, now that we have it changed, now let's color it up. Say, because now we're going to make it bigger and brighter than it was, bolder, if you will. Put in some voices, put in some juice. But one of the things I found with my clients is the only way they can get around to having such puny little problems is that they're missing out on something more important, called life. Wherever they find the time for this nonsense is beyond me. And a big part of it is, I mean, they've got 3 hours to spend every Friday night to sit and intimidate themselves about whether they should walk across the room and talk to some woman. I mean, this guy flew, think about this guy paid $5,000, flew all the way out from Texas, sat there because he wants me to be able to help him have confidence, so that because he has trouble meeting women. Well, I mean, the thing is where does he find the time for all of this? You know, to have all these, you know, to sit there for 3 hours, you know, these little tiny pictures, you know, of seeing people reject him and say shitty things to him, and little voices threatening him. Those little voices can only threaten him because that's all he's got is little voices. When he puts in big booming voices, because when I put in voices of mine,
I always want them to have lots of deep, natural tones, so they come out in a choir that backs it up. So, I mean, even if he's going to have an internal conflict, I'm going to win. And that's what it's about. In order for him to have confidence, if he's got things that pump him up, crank him up, there's music, because they're always saying, well, how do I get rid of the voice that tells me to be afraid? I go, drown it out with music. Play music so loud that what happens is it builds up. So that, see, if you're in that situation, and you raise up like a four-toed dragon and feel that strength inside you and spread your wings, and you breathe each word like it's fire coming down upon them, the thing that's going to happen is that it's going to instill in them the kind of confidence. I mean, it's like when you go, well, I just don't know what we're going to do about this, you know. Well, I tell you what, I want you to go inside and make a picture of a time you were really confident. But the kind of confidence you're going to get, it's going to be such shit to start with. The thing is you want something really good. You want to build it up. What builds it up is your presence, the way you talk about it. When I tell people to make a nice, big, bright picture of what they'd want, I do it when their eyes are open, so they'll get the idea of what I mean. A big, bright picture in which you see yourself the way you want to be. Even bigger than that. You know, they go, like that. And I go, broader than that. Now brighter than that. Now closer. Right. I go, now add sound. Booming sound of a voice that says, ah, this is it. Now, I have to build it for them because they don't have it. But I wouldn't be able to do it if I don't have it. Now, the thing is with what you just did, the piece I want to add is to be able to go back and to be able to get in a representation so that you can get up, and when you get up and you got it crackling, and you've risen up so you're looking down on it and the problem, the lightning and thunder going off, the music, the choruses, and when you look down and somebody says to you, well, you know, I have a lot of, whatever it is that they tell you, and you look down on it and you hear this booming laughter, ho, 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 ho. You know. For those of you who don't have representations, get the album of the opera Don Giovanni. He's got the best laugh. And then, ha, 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 ha. Repent, never. The thing is what it takes to rise up as a four-toed dragon, to really be able to do this, to grab a hold of an audience and just go, here, you're mine. We are going to have fun with all your problems, and they will be gone. To be able to do that, to take a hold of things and fill a room with static electricity. I mean, so that people know you're there. Say, I mean, the thing is, it's one thing when you want to be unnoticed, to turn everything down, build up your little wall so you can sneak through the airport. That's real different than when you want to capture somebody's attention. And one of the things has to do is I notice that people's perception of their size and the size of their own voice, that the kind of voice they have when they speak, whether it's loud or not is not the point. The point is how full it is, how resonant it is, so that when they say something, it's more than congruent. Because you can be congruent, you can go, yes. But there's a different kind of congruency that when your yes fills every part, when you pull your head back a little bit like this, pull your head back a little bit, lower your head, and say hello. Hello. Right? You feel the difference? You can feel a tingle in your shoulders and your center. That's right. But see, when you have your head out in front of you like this, then it's sort of like the rest of you says, well, the air is only going to come up and down your nose. See, when you rise back up and you look at something, it changes the way you speak, literally changes the way the air moves. But when you do it, when you go, you're mine. So you feel it resonate. And the thing about communicating is that it resonates in others. To be able to take your voice and use it as a tool. And to hear all that going on around you when you do, and when you rise up above something, then it's a lot easier to deal with. That I found with my clients that when I began to build what I consider to be Cecil B. DeMille type representations inside of them, that were the ones where they do things successfully, then even the most insurmountable problem didn't seem so insurmountable. In fact, it very rarely interested them at all. It was like, get that picture out of my way. That, you know, that as you begin to add just the smells, you know, the sounds, the tastes, the craving, that as you build a fuller representation and you look down on it and it is a piece of cake. When I talked about piece of cake yesterday, remember we did piece of cake? How many of your pieces of cake was like that, right? Where you were like this. I mean, Or was it, you know, pictures in front of your face and stuff? Oh, I can see how to do that. You know, that would be very easy. Now, the thing is what I want you to do is to go back and to be able to alter two things. Your size so that you can look down and so you can hear your own laughter and reverberate. So that even when you open your eyes and you look at the person that's with you, you can hear it coming from the outside, even if though you know they can't. That it just makes it so that you know. The other thing I want you to do is to be able to switch referential index so that you could get inside of a smaller, the kinds of things you've heard your partner say for the past few days. The little pictures here moving around, you know, little voice that kind of comes from over there. And when it comes from over there, then they're stuck. And if they move around here, then they can do it. And little pictures at angle so that you can switch back and forth between the two so that you can still know what to do with them. But you can realize the one thing that makes all of this easy is if you were to just build positive megalomaniac representations, in them, when they went back and looked at theirs, it would look like nothing. That when I try to build things in people, the one thing I do is I don't just shift a belief to the way it was. I even make it better than the belief they have. I make it bigger, always more dramatic. I go, pull it up, make it the same size. When I'm done, I'll usually say, now, make it a little bigger, a little bit brighter, because I want it to be more dramatic than what they already have. So when they look at it, they believe it even more than they believe the other thing. I want the strength of whatever conviction I put in people to be. And one of the reasons I know I can do that is that when I look at what they've got, it's so puny. It's little pictures that are kind of faded. You can see through them and shit, you know. And they haven't got the whole world crackling and alive, but I know if I bring them even closer to that, when they look back at the way they were doing it before, it seems so dull. Take the thing you just built, you know, in terms of a motivation thing. Now I want you to just stop and go back to the motivation you used to use. The one where you were having trouble? When you look at it, can you understand why you were having trouble? Right. Now, if you can build those kind of representations inside of people, it affects them in a way which I consider to be ultimately ecological, because so much of what was there becomes so irrelevant. It was successful at motivating them. It was like that's about as much as they could do with it. But as you begin to teach people to vary the submodalities, the thing is as you extend besides just moving them around inside of what they are, to really adding much more to it, a richness of internal experience that adds some drama to it. A little bit to life, you know, because a lot of people seem to have to create drama on the outside. There are people that actually get in arguments with their spouse just to get juiced up enough to make love. So they have to fight for 2 hours, you know, in order to get passionate mood, because they can't build enough passion on the inside. Because, you know, what they do is they look at being frustrated, you know, and it's this big and it's over there. You know, then it goes down there and moves over there. It's a little bit brighter, and they amp out on that. Well, the thing is we're not looking to put people through threshold. We're looking to increase what the threshold is, to put it into something that's so fucking dramatic, that opens up possibilities. We don't want to build representations that stop people out of this stuff. We want to make it the stuff that just sucks them into their future. I want you to go back with your partner, and I want you to take them through sequence. Okay, we want them to change their perceptual point of view, build a big representation like you had, only this time I want you to take it with something where they really want to do it. When they do it, they want to do it with every fiber of their soul. And it's something they do with other people. To realize that other people's objections, for example in sales, I teach salespeople to do this kind of stuff. That the one thing with salespeople is you know, I've noticed there's two classes. I've studied and modeled salespeople, everything from the best Army recruiters, and that's a tough sale, man. You know, I'm going to give you a puny salary for 4 years of your life. That's a tough sale, and you get a year to have buyer's remorse. That's a tough sale, really is. But the guys that do it, the good ones, bet 97%. That means they can get anyone in the Army. But the ones that aren't good don't even bat 50%, and there's a breaking line difference between them. Same thing is true with insurance salesmen, car salesmen, all of them. The disparity is that great. There isn't a broad cross-section. And the one major difference is they're carnivores because they want to eat up objections. They do things like, oh, give me more objections. They literally will say it. They'll sit around in their office and have people sit around and play kinds of clients and come up with every objection they can because they love to eat up those puny. They go, there is no such thing as a big objection. You know, and people object because from their point of view, they've raised up like a four-toed dragon. And they hear these loud voices inside going, that's nothing. And they look down at that objection, and when they do, they switch to the other point of view, to the point where somebody has the little objection. Well, I just have this idea in my mind that I'll be stuck. And you look down at that little thing again, and then you go, move it out of your way, and put in something big and dramatic to draw them to where you want to be. That's why they can sell anything to anybody. Most of the top Army recruiters have already done everything else in the Army. They've had every quote-unquote challenge there is. The people who have up and make up as a hierarchy on their value system that a challenge is important are the ones that really develop. Just thought I'd throw that out to some of you. It's not knowing, it's not getting there, it's having the challenge. They're just going, arr. That when challenge is one of the things that you really value, you become incredibly highly motivated. And that's the people that seem to look at the world from this point of view. Now I want you to take your partner and do that. And when you do the referential index shifts, the thing is have your partner pick one of the clients they know they're going to see and that they found out this kind of stuff about. Even one they've made a change in, but they're kind of unsure and don't feel that. Have them go back, build up this dramatic electric internal representation where it's all going like that, and then have them think about their client in the middle of it, or a group that they work with that isn't doing well, and put them there and switch inside to see what it looks like to look up at what's going on from that point of view, and then switch back to the outside and figure out, and then have that little voice that goes, now, which way am I going to do it? Because you know you can create something better inside of them than what they have from that point of view. When you're the eye of the storm, yourself, when you are the eye of the storm, you know that just a little bit of the energy you have is going to be enough to change so dramatically what's going on inside of them. And the confidence and the knowledge that that's the case, when you come from it from the point of view of being a four-toed dragon, when you look down at it, you know that you're going to be able to take what's there and go and build something that's not only better, it's more. And the fact that it's more makes it so overwhelmingly something they'd be drawn towards themselves, as opposed to even considering where they were stuck. If they can get stuck by a picture this big, and you can build something they want that wraps around them and has sound and dramatic feelings, when they look at this one and they look at this one, which one's going to affect them? Think about it. Go try it.